Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in today. I'm John McCoy, Executive Director of Alumni Relations. On behalf of the Nursing Alumni Association and the School of Nursing, welcome to the 2022 Latinx Heritage Month panel. We invite you to submit questions by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll save time towards the end of the program to answer as many questions as time allows. I will now turn it over to our co-host, Adrian Espinosa. Adrian is a 2015 graduate of the MEPIN program and a recipient of a 2020 UCSF Campaign Alumni Award, one of the highest honors given to UCSF alumni. He is the current president of the UCSF Nursing Alumni Association. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you, John, and welcome everybody. As John mentioned, I'm a UCSF alumni, your current Nursing Association alumni president, and it's a great honor to be here. I want to welcome everybody tonight for taking the time to join us for this very special panel as we are finishing and ending Latinx Heritage Month, but also still recognizing the diverse beauty that's contained within our Latinx community. And we hope to just give you a touch of that spirit tonight with our guests, okay? So now I will be introducing our panelists, our esteemed panelists that we have tonight, and reading a brief bio on them. And after that, we'll proceed with the program. So starting off, we have I will skip for with the people that we have right now, and then if anybody else joins on a little later, we'll definitely introduce as well. But I'll start off with Ana Delgado. She is a clinical professor in the UCSF Department of Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Reproductive Sciences, San Francisco General Hospital Division. Ana splits her time between clinical practice and administration, teaching, and community-based advocacy. Ana is active both regionally and nationally in efforts to diversify the midwifery workforce, support physiologic birth, and participates in community-based efforts to transform how low-income women are supported and cared for throughout the reproductive life cycle. Welcome, Ana. All right, next.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Mica Estrada. She received her PhD in social psychology from Harvard University and now the Associate Dean for Diversity, Inclusion, and Outreach for the School of Nursing, and is an associate professor in the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences and the Institute for Health and Aging at UCSF. Her research program focuses on social influences, focusing on fostering and testing the impacts of inclusion, kindness, and diversity in higher education. Welcome, Dr. Mica Estrada.
Buenas noches. It's great to be here.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. Next, we have the esteemed Sergio Saenz. He's a recipient of his educational doctorate in organizational change and leadership from the USC School of Education and serves as the director of outreach and recruitment for the School of Nursing. His work focuses on in-state and out-of-state recruitment and qualified and diverse candidates for advanced practice and doctoral nursing programs. We do have another panelist scheduled, and if we do, oh, there she is. All right, so let me introduce our fourth panelist, Miss Maria Ramos Bracamontes. Maria Ramos is a certified nurse midwife and is the founder of Campesina Womb. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a line. She's a certified nurse midwife working in Watsonville, California, with the primary farm worker Mestizo community. She is the founder of Campesina Womb Justice, a mutual aid project that centers reproductive and healing justice by providing traditional Mexican medicine, advocacy, and direct aid to farm workers and all biopic in need. As you can see, we have such an exciting panel here of a diverse array of professions, and we are excited to have everybody here, and we welcome you. So thank you so much. At some point during the program, we have a little guest here who will provide a little bit of a touch of our cultura. So as soon as they log on, we will definitely invite her and take a moment to turn the program over. But for now, we want to start off with some of the questions here. So John and I will be co-moderators here. And right now, we just want to start the conversation. And if there's questions, please make sure you let us know in the chat box. And we can also, see if you raise your hands, we can definitely answer and address those questions that way, okay? All right. So this is going towards everybody here on the panel. And you can just let me know what would like to answer, or we can all answer this one. So what is something you wish your non-Latinx colleagues would be able to do better as colleagues and advocates for the Latinx communities that you serve? So that's a good question. That came from previous exposure with these panels. So how can our colleagues and our community members support Latinx communities. Not everybody obviously who works in Latinx communities are of Latino backgrounds, but that's amazing that we have people who are really invested in our communities. But, they also are asking, how can they better help serve us? Does anybody have any insight or ideas? Good question, I know.
I can jump in.
Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here and to be celebrating this time. It's funny when I think about the month, it's not just a month for me, it's life. And so it's kind of a funny thing to have a month where you're supposed to focus on something that you are, right? But I think about this a lot, but I often wish people understood better that that their values and the values of kind of the mainstream, I would say more kind of white male oriented ways are not the only way to be. And I think if someone wants to do something to immerse themselves, to be the minority in the environment in which Latinos are the majority, and to experience that and to feel that, and to I think by doing that you learn more about your own culture and the assumptions you might be making, that you think, well, everybody's this way, but actually when you go to another culture you realize, no, that's not true. And I think for myself, at least as a Latina, the mainstream culture has always been a different culture. Every time I went into Berkeley for my undergraduate or went to classes at Harvard, I was always entering a different environment, and I knew it was different from my own. But I feel like a lot of times people who are in the majority have no idea that there's any other way of being. And so so I would value people, just understanding that there's another way of being, and that's a legitimate way of being. And more specifically, that I feel like for me, family really matters, connection really matters, the way we treat each other really matters. That matters more than profit. It matters more than being better than everybody else, and which are really counter to the mainstream culture. So I find the value system confusing, the modern worlds, and I just wish they could understand that it doesn't have to be that way. That how we care about each other and how we treat each other matters more.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Estrada. And I think you bring up a great point of sometimes that authenticity is not just talking about it, but actually submerging yourself, like you're saying, into an environment, or actually showing that you have an actual interest in and learning and interacting. I think that definitely shows some of that genuine attempt of our colleagues to be able to learn about us, and like you said, learn about themselves as well. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay, so before we move on to yes, Maria.
There's so much even just practical things, right? Like sharing resources, making space for more, people who have less access. To me, that's true solidarity, when you not just acknowledging, but also doing something about it, showing up, making a difference. And it can look like, just like sharing specific resources, that even goods, right? Like if you have an extra laptop or an extra car, share it. Or somebody needs help, or if you have a lot of experience like in the medical field or like with technology, like provide direct care or direct sharing of resources is so powerful, because like it's about action, right?
That I love what Mica and Maria both just said. I think what I would like our non-Latinx colleagues to do is to perhaps, in addition to learning about us, which would be huge, is to recognize that many of the barriers we face, we didn't create for ourselves, and that we, as much as we climb and fight and push and educate and ourselves, that there are certain barriers that only non-Latinx communities can help eliminate, and that's what they can help do.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you. So before we move on to the next question, as we said, we're setting the tone here, right, Dr. Estrada? It's not just about celebrating the 1 month, but let's, I think we definitely take advantage of being able to highlight our cultura during that time. And tonight, aside from having all of you empowering, inspiring, beautiful colleagues on here, we also wanted to add a little touch of a bit of our cultura. So I invited a dear friend that I met in the community. Her name is Monique. She goes by Monica, and she has a gift of music. And I've always felt that música is a source of medicine for many of us and a source of cultura. So I just wanted to invite her to share one song with us, just to kind of also set the ambience and set the tone for us tonight. So Moni.
Hey guys, I'm glad I was able to connect for a second there. I was worried I wasn't gonna be able to chime in, but I'm happy to be here. First off, before I start my set, thank you guys for, being in the front lines and always supporting, during these crazy times. We appreciate you guys out in the medical field doing the hard work out there. So here's something that I chose for you guys. I like this one because of Selena. We're all a fan of Selena. I thought I'd bring something a little bit different. In the past, I've done English. I've done a little bit more social emotional. This one I just think is this connected that most of us have kind of heard. And it's like that bridge where although not all of us speak Spanish, there's certain artists that kind of bring us together, through their music. So this is a song by Selena. Yo sé que tienes un nuevo amor, sin embargo te deseo lo mejor. Si en mí no encontraste felicidad, tal vez alguien más te la dará. Como la flor, tanto amor me diste tú. Se marchitó, me marchó hoy, yo sé perder. Ay, cómo me duele, si vieras cómo duele perder tu amor. Con tu adiós te llevas mi corazón. No sé si puedo volver a amar, porque te di todo el amor que pude dar. Como la flor, tanto amor me diste tú. Se marchitó, me marchó hoy, yo sé perder. Ay, cómo me duele. Ay, cómo me duele. Ay, cómo me duele.
Yay, un aplauso, Moni, as always, gracias. You always had this special line, special touch to everything. So thank you for sharing, my dear. And for those of you on social media, you can follow her at Moni, MONI_canta. So please, she's part of Mariachi Azteca. Am I correct, Moni? Mariachi
Yes.
Azteca out of San Jose. So if you ever need a mariachi for an event, she's one of the lead singers, and they're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
God bless you. Take care, hon. All right, back to the fun panel as well. So now kind of taking it back a little bit with I'm going to address with each of the panelists. So, being in the profession that you're in, I gave you a little bio about it and your experience. How do you feel that your journey, your professional journey, how that intersects with our Latinx Heritage Month or Latinx Heritage Year, and what does this month, I guess, in particular, mean to you, being in the field that you are in and what you do? So I want to start off with Ana, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, it has allowed me to really be the advocate that I and the sort of because for me, being a nurse and being a midwife is not just about the care that happens in the exam room, but it's also about our role in the community. And sort of like riffing off of what Mica said, it's really about how do we include all of what, you know, we bring with us into that space, and also what we then bring out into the community, right? Because most of the healing that happens actually is not actually super dependent on what we do in the medical kind of space, but is really more about like, how do we facilitate healing on a broader scale? And I think for me, there was a lot of, unfortunately, like unlearning that had to happen, where I came kind of to midwifery from a very grounded place of bringing my culture and my history and activism. I was actually not, you know, a nurse as an undergrad. I went through MEPIN as well. And I was doing community organizing, working with unionized Latinos in LA County. But the process of going to midwifery school was actually not particularly like nourishing in that regard. And so I was out in practice for quite some time before I was able to kind of come up for air and actually reconnect back with the roots of why I came into midwifery. And it was actually, you know, through relationship building with people like Maria, who I owe a huge debt to really like help me kind of make that journey back to where we came from. And I think there's an obstetrician gynecologist that I follow closely, does a lot of work on criminalization and pregnancy, and kind of, her name is Jamila Parrott, Dr. Jamila Parrott, and she has a saying that I just recall almost daily. It's not just who I am, it's whose I am. And I think that is a really important part of how I bring who I am to the work that we do. And I think that I can see that in all of you as well, as you've answered some of the questions. So that saying to me is a really like sums it up in terms of what we're hoped to do and bring forth.
Thank you, Ana. And I have to say, I think the School of Medicine at UCSF is very lucky to have you, but I'm also glad that you, you know, I had the pleasure of meeting you this past weekend for a nursing mixer, and knowing that you're connecting still with your nursing community, I think that's a great value too for all the future midwives out there. So thank you, Ana. Sergio.
Yeah, I would say when I think about sort of my educational career and then and my professional journey, my path, I think a couple things. When I think about my educational career, I think it was somewhat rocky and non-traditional. It took much longer undergraduate wise. I didn't know how to do college, and then, you know, I progressed and I achieved my doctorate recently. And so there's that side of it. However, you know, I've also been a part of the youth system for about almost 25 years. And I know that I've made major contributions, not just within my work, but with a lot of the communities that I've always sought to serve, because I think I got into this work because, much like Ana said, is that I'm not an individual doing a job. I'm a part of a community, and my role is making it easier for others. And when I think about Latinx Heritage Month, I think that there's an intersection there. It should be a time when we should be highlighting the accomplishments of the individuals have made to UC or to whatever campus we're a part of, since we're a part of UC, and that we should be also continuing to educate ourselves more and non-Latinx communities, as well as celebrating, right? But it should be, that's where I see the intersection, right? That, because I know that many in our community have probably had similar pathways that I've had, and they haven't been lucky enough, and I do mean lucky, to make it to where I have or where we have.
Thank you, Sergio. And you know, Sergio, you struck a chord with me right now, because I thought, like, when I met you, I was in the nursing program, and, you know, being a poor college student, you gave me an opportunity to attend a national conference with you and represent UCSF. And after that, we built community, and we've been able to help other students get into the program and support them. And so I'm very thankful to you, because I know you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. So I am very grateful too for the work that you've done too. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And having you and you know, the Voces Latinas, I remember walking across that campus and I was new to the School of Nursing. I saw Voces Latinas and I saw them logo and I said, you know, de aquí soy, right? These are, I went straight there and I'm like, oh, look, you know, because there's not a lot of us. And so, you know, I was thankful you were there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sergio. Dr. Estrada.
Yeah, what a rich question. I feel like there's a lot that can be said about it. I know for myself, I was kind of traditional in that I got my bachelor's and I just took 1 year out and then I went right into a PhD program in social psychology. That's what my PhD is in. So I was studying how people are influenced by people around them. But when I finished my PhD, first of all, I got married and I had a baby in the middle of my PhD. And I was pregnant with my second one when I walked with my doctorate. And so I saw what a lot of the professors' lives were like at Harvard. And I thought, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be like that. And so I didn't look for a job after I finished my PhD, and I didn't think that I would be in academia. And I stayed home with my kids for about 10 years and was just, you know, an at-home mom. So I think that value that my kids were more important than my professional career at that time, you know, really comes from how I was raised, that the kids should come first. And, you know, I know that not everybody has that choice. I was married and my husband at the time was able to support us without me working, which was fortunate. I didn't take that for granted. But so I think about how we all have different journeys. I think of it as like a braided river, you know, people going down the river, coming into academia, out of academia, into professions, like, we're a community that's a braided river. We don't do our careers necessarily the straight and narrow way. And that's okay. I think, you know, part of what we do in this month is normalize the fact that people come to their careers in lots of different ways, and that those are all important ways, and that we may not all have the same value systems or the same choices, but that's okay too. And I don't know, I think that's part of the month for me is demonstrating that there's lots of ways to do this, and that they're just as important or just as valuable as the traditional way of doing things. And in fact, I think because of our life experiences, we bring to our work a certain consciousness that we don't just take it for granted. It's because, you know, most of us have worked pretty hard to get to where we are, and we don't take where we are for granted. And the other thing I'll say about our culture is that I feel like we very naturally send our hand back and reach for the next person to help them. Like that's part of what we do, is we are here to help the next generation come and to do what we can. And I know I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for some pretty cool Chicanos out there who reached back for me, you know, and helped me. So that's what resonates for me is kind of that modeling of that and living into it, and just recognizing that we're all okay the way we did it, you know, even though it may not be the way it shows up on TV.
Thank you. I think I agree. I think you and Sergio both mentioned the you know, non-traditional aspect. I always say that's been my journey as well, but I think uno se lo saborea más, you know, at the end when you complete or get to where you got to do, or get to where you want to be, all those challenges, all those bumps, everything really te lo saboreas más. You really feel like you earned it, and you earn your stripes. Maria.
I definitely never imagined I would ever go to any sort of higher education. I do come from the background of pursuing home birth first to being a home birth midwife, just because I do come from I was born in Mexico, at home, and I do have midwives in my lineage. I never knew you could study midwifery in any other way except by, the apprenticeship. And I come from a family and community with, very low resources. And the only reason I decided to pursue nursing midwifery was because I felt like there was that need. To have, really the respect as someone, who presents like this. There's always all these assumptions made about me and my personality being more calm and quiet, made it really hard for me to feel like I could do that much without, this type of education. And so really, it's been incredibly challenging to go through school and also be in this field, because I'm a very, very people-centered person. I'm a very culture-centered person, meaning that I always want to bring everyone with me along every step, but also my culture. And I'll just share one brief story. I don't know if I told you this, Anna, but when I was preparing for my MEPIN interview, I used to have really long hair. I just cut it because having babies makes it really hard to keep up with your hair. But I just remember I was so stressed about my long hair. I'm like, am I gonna hide it? Should I put it in a bun? But the bun, I felt like it would be, I was so worried about my long hair, and I was so worried about my, what I would wear, and I was so worried about my accent. And also I really struggled because, we all know there's so many types of Latinx people, right? Like, I was born and raised in Mexico. I was undocumented most of my life until my late teenage years. So I couldn't even relate to other Latinos in nursing school, because some of them had someone in their family who had gone to college. And in my family, I was the one that finished high school. And so I have to be honest, I definitely felt that pressure to separate who I was to fit into being a student in higher education. And then I ended up having to take time off because it was just, all the microaggressions and microaggressions just like get to you. But I was so lucky to have been connected to Anna, who was a preceptor and then mentor, who could just see beyond, who actually appreciated that part that I felt I had to like. And I never figured out how to separate the two. And now I'm just so, I know, and it's so clear that it is our culture and it is our, warrior spirit that makes us be such well-rounded, holistic healers. Because to me, I definitely see my role as a midwife or in the healthcare profession as healing. And so I come from a background of social work. I have a specialty in substance use, right? Working with unhoused people or people with severe trauma, and those are my people. And everything I do, I really try to center. How could I support the most vulnerable, the ones that have the least access, and how do I center them? And that's really why I started my project. I'm a new midwife. I have had the longest journey to midwifery. I was a parent. I was a single parent going to school, and then I got pregnant in midwifery school, and then pregnant my first year of practice, all the things you're not supposed to do. And so really now I'm at a place where I can be proud of myself and really reflect our community, right? We're parents, a lot of us, we're parents first before anything else. And one of my goals is to really show that to people. You don't have to give up who you are. You don't have to give up your family or your culture. Or I never stopped serving my community, even though I was going to school, and I work at a federally qualified health care center. And I saw the limitations right away, and I felt empowered through the pandemic to create a way to support my community in the way that I knew, we need, that was not available through a clinic or other programs. So to me, it's every day, showing just being proud, but also just showing how important it is to be all of who we are every moment and make space for ourselves, because there isn't, a lot of times there isn't. But I definitely would say that I wouldn't have made it without people like Anna. And I am incredibly grateful, and I'm so committed to making it easier for, the new generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And I know, Maria, I think you were in school maybe a year or two, I think, after I left, around the time, but I remember crossing paths, and, we kept in touch via social media. That's one of the beauties of it. And I just remember seeing your trajectory of going through it, and we had mutual friends and colleagues. And that's what I thought about you for this panel too, because I just, I've been proud to see your journey and what you have to offer. And especially midwifery, I think there's not many Latinx folks that are in it, and you're doing a lot of grassroots work too in Watsonville and everywhere. So it's great. So I'm so glad you're here, and you definitely should be proud. You definitely should be proud of everything you've accomplished. And we've been touching on the topic, and I love how everyone has incorporated, some of the cultura, etc. That, and for example, also Dr. Estrada saying, being a mom was important to her, as part of her cultura, etc. Can anybody share maybe a tradition or traditions that you feel you've kept since, growing up, or even currently right now, that you kind of intertwine or tie into your profession or in your everyday work life that, is part of your cultura that maybe others might not necessarily do, but that is part of your everyday or monthly routine, or something you do to check in with yourself that has to do with our cultura? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll go. I think part of our cultura is we're not, at least I'm hoping everyone will agree, we're not an individualistic culture. We're a communal culture, right? You'll have, people may move away, but many times you have a multi-generational home, right? And living together and extended family and so forth. And you care for a community. You're not just an individual. And I think that's kind of like a tradition or a value that I think that I try to, and I think a lot of other colleagues that I have who are Latinx as well try to. It's a part of our work in trying to create communities where we're at. One of the things that I recognized after some time at UCSF was that there weren't a lot of us in leadership or in any positions of authority within the school, and we really didn't have a voice. And so, along with some other awesome colleagues, formed the Chicano Latino Campus Staff Association, where we formed a group and we did it to build community amongst each other on campus. And we'd have various events, and we'd have custodians, police officers, nurses, students, staff come to our events. But we also work to advocate to leadership on campus for greater inclusion, right? Because we wanted to build more community, and I think that's something that we could have all just did our individual jobs that are listed on our job description and checked all the boxes and felt good about ourselves. But I mean, we realized that we're more a part of a community, and we don't see ourselves. We want to recreate ourselves, shall we say.
Ooh, I like that. We got to make a shirt of that one, Sergio. I love it. Anybody else want to chime in on the tradition maybe that you've had that you can think of?
I can think of a few things. And one of the things that comes to mind is just connection to nature, that I don't know, sitting under the tree or doing some gardening, or I don't know, all those things I consider them things I used to do with my grandma, and I still feel like they're a part of connecting to my heritage, to put my hand in the dirt. But I think when I think about kind of something that really I try to carry with me from my culture is humility. And it's hard in academic environment because it's not rewarded. Not rewarded to be quieter or to be willing to listen or to not elevate yourself or make yourself stand out or all of those kinds of things. And in fact, I think a lot of people kind of toot their own horn, kind of, it's like the norm is to kind of just make themselves stand out as smarter and better than everybody else. And I just feel like that's really toxic to my being, and it's not healthy for other people, and it doesn't feel like a good thing. And I think that's a really beautiful, valuable part of our culture, is that we value humility and we walk in humility, and that we have a generousness in our spirit. And I will not allow any of these institutions to take that from me. Even if I'm penalized for it, I'm not gonna let them take it from me.
Don't let them, Mica. Don't let them.
Yeah. I feel the Chicana coming out. I love it.
I know. And I mean, it's
love it.
kind of challenging. I mean, I just got put in the position of Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion and Outreach, and I really wrestled with it because it feels like, I don't know, it feels weird. But I also know that I have a responsibility to the next generation and to do what I can wherever I'm placed, so I feel like maybe I can do good from there, and I got to set aside that, but still can't let it get to your head, that's doesn't mean you're better than anybody else, doesn't mean you're smarter than anybody else, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a title. So I don't want to lose that. And that's one of the big things I try to carry with me, and I hope I never lose it.
Thank you so much. And also that reminds me of being told, and an experience that I've had where they say, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have after your name, but people are going to remember the way you treated them, right? So I think that goes a long way in saying that. So thank you so much, Dr. Estrada. Anybody else? Ana, Maria, any other tradition you want to share? You don't have to, but if you have one, you can share.
Food.
Maria?
Food for sure. I commuted from Santa Cruz to school, and I would pack my lunch for the whole week, kind of. And my herbs, right, the natural world, our plant allies, and food medicine are what kept me strong, connected, and nourished. And also incorporating our traditions, right? Because in nursing midwifery school, we learn, this Western way of healing, but on my own time, finding time for that. So traditional self-care, such as, like just doing everything with intention, right? Like in the shower, like, pray with the water or with the food, and really like eating those traditional foods to nourish, the spirit. And I really would try to, to use that as a protection for when we have, those difficult moments when we interact with, these institutions or certain people that, can stress us. So yeah, food, rituals, ceremonies, and plant medicine.
Thank you. I have a question for everybody. Hopefully everyone can answer this one. Who's been the most influential for you in your life, in your trajectory, in what you're doing in your career? I don't want to pick on anybody, but just if somebody raise your hand.
Answer that really easily.
Yes, I know.
Let's see if we all say the same person.
No. For me, it's many people. It's the community that I serve. I'm constantly learning and benefiting and in deep gratitude from the very first birthing person I ever worked with back when I was a doula. I just told a story about that person the other day and how they helped shape my career. It was a funny story, but we don't have time for it. But I think, I am very, very lucky in that I live in the community that I work in, and I know that everyone can afford to live in San Francisco, so I'm aware that that's a privilege that I have. And I just love that, actually my husband was texting me right now because one of my patient's sons is on the same soccer team with my son, and they were trying to arrange a carpool, and And anyway, she wasn't responding to him because she doesn't have his number. And so I texted her to be like, no, that's my husband, you can text him. So, you know, it's like that ability to shop together. Our kids go to school together, they play on the same fields together. We are activists together. There's patients who I've had in centering groups from 10 years ago who are now housing promotoras in my clinic, and who speak on panels with me about immigrant rights. And so, you know, this is the way that I continue to learn and be guided. I always give thanks to my lineage. That's something that I learned. I have very strong birthing lineage in my family. So I always joke my dad was born during a military coup into my grandmother's hands because no one was able to attend her. And I just think about the power of, like, you know, somebody who's, you know, she was just a badass, my grandma. But and my mom also birthed 4 kids with very little assistance. So I just feel like there's so much that I've learned from my community, and I feel like being accountable to them and actually being humble about when I haven't been accountable to them and when I haven't acted in alignment with my values. Because Mica, I appreciate your steadfastness, and I have to be humble and admit that 20 years in, I have made mistakes and made decisions because of being raised up in a predominantly white institution where it hasn't always encouraged me or led me to do the right or the aligned thing. And so I am so grateful to many people who have accepted me back with grace and have helped me to stay looking forward. And a lot of those people are the people that I serve. So I'm so grateful to them.
Awesome. Next.
I can go. Just brief, someone who's inspired us. The first midwife I met here in the US and here in Santa Cruz, I would have never known I could study midwifery, even the home birth track, without ever meeting her and welcoming me into her circle. And then getting to know her, because, you know, we all know about the witch hunts or the, you know, the repression of women, you know, with wisdom. And she is one of those people that is just so connected to, you know, earth and, you know, sky, and just she just has so much wisdom about the universe that you know, we don't learn in a classroom or in a program. We only learn, you know, spending time with people, and it's passed on to us. And without ever meeting her, I don't think I would have ever thought I could be a midwife. But also, I would never think I could be the midwife, the type of midwife that I want to be, that I am, because, you know, we know there's this division, right, in midwifery. There's some different types of midwives. There's a traditional midwives, there's a licensed midwives, there's a nurse midwives, and I always knew I was just a midwife to serve my people. And if my people are in the hospital, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to learn everything I need to know to advocate the best that I can for them, but also create space to incorporate the culture, you know, in the hospital, like our ancestral culture in the hospital. So that's really like my whole life dream. But I would have never met her, and she's mixed, Mexican and white, and I'm just so grateful for her to seeing that in me, like really being able to connect to that like cultural piece of what it is, like what does it mean to be a midwife, you know, before, you know, the profession of obstetrics was created. And if I didn't have that, I would have never finished midwifery school. I would have never tried, because I did not, you know, I did not want to be just a medical midwife. I wanted to be the full sense of the word. And even if it, even if I just have to hold that in myself with myself, at least to get through school. So I'm just really grateful for, those wise women who are still alive and who are sharing their wisdom.
Thank you, Maria. Dr. Estrada, is that here?
Yeah, I mean, the person that came to mind immediately was my mom. And I remember even when I was working on my bachelor's degree. So when I was, I guess maybe 8 or 9 years old, my dad left. So my mom was a single mom with 2 kids, and she went back to school. And I remember going to bed, and she'd be at the table with the books working on it. And I'd wake up in the morning and she'd still be there with all of her books, and I just remember how hard she worked while raising 2 of us. And when I was working on my bachelor's degree, no matter how hard it got, all I think about is like, my mom did this with 2 kids by herself. I can do this. I can do this. And it was never anything that she said. She never told me to go to college. She never really, I never felt any pressure to do anything. I don't think she even looked at my applications when I applied or anything like that. But the image of what she did was so powerful to me that I always went back to that. And it kept me going, because I thought she could do it like that. I didn't have any kids when I was in a bachelor's degree. So I thought, I can do this, I can do this. And then the other element is that she always taught me to do something that gives back and to make the world a better place. And I think that still is a really big guiding principle in my life. And the last element is that she's a very spiritual person, and that grounding, that spiritual grounding, that mystical way of being, which I think is a part of our magical, mystical culture, is really important. I think our world needs it, because from that lens, you can see the interconnection of things, and it makes you less likely to exploit things, but to care for it, whether it's people or the plants or whatever that is there. So I think the wisdom of our culture is needed right now to save our planet. And so I feel really blessed. And I do think my mom helped me to do that. My dad too. My dad's a pretty mystical, magical guy too. Crazy. He's a little more crazy than my mom, but yeah. So anyway, my parents.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you want to share Sergio, anybody, or next question?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kind of as maybe some of you might share this as a recovering Catholic, as a Latino, right? There's the Holy Trinity sort of for me too of influences. So definitely my mom and dad. My dad worked 50 years in a freezer as a butcher, right? Tough work, right? And so his work ethic, just amazing work ethic. Raising 4 kids here, coming here, not knowing English, little education. And then my mom was raised binationally. They would come to the US and was raised on the border in Mexicali. And also in the Central Valley, during difficult times in the Tulare area, they would pick, right? They were farm workers and dairy workers. And then my mom was bilingual, and so she raised our family, and she was a stay-at-home mom for the first several years, raising 4 of us. But she was a natural leader for like many of the mujeres in our community, because she could fill out forms in English, and she could go and translate. And then she was like the family economist, right? She ran the books, and she was in charge of our healthcare, right? When I had my kids, she showed me, look, I wrote down at 3 months, you were eating, plátano, scraped banana, right? Your kids can eat stuff, right? And she still had it because she took vigorous notes, right? And later on, she went to community college. she ran computer labs at a couple of schools, right? Like she could have, if she didn't marry my dad, she could have been, you know, anything she wanted to be. You know, she was just that much of intelligent and creative. You know, I wouldn't even go into Halloween and Christmas, where she let out all her creative abilities, right? But, and then those two, and then Anna, you brought up, you know, I was thinking of individuals, but the comunidad has been my greatest constant influence of my why and my motivation, right? Of that's been constant, as well as why we do this work that we do. So that's my perspective.
Awesome. Thank you guys. So we have a little under 5 minutes. I don't think we have any questions thus far. So I just wanted to sort of invite everybody in about a minute. If there's something, you know, any parting words you'd like to share, as far as maybe, you know, how do we continue to, you know, support, you know, Latinx community culture, but specifically within our nursing community, you know, how can we continue to help uplift each other or support each other? And you know, as we know, there's challenges and there's barriers that, as mentioned earlier, that others may not experience. And I know it's a loaded question, but, you know, in a minute, just a sentence, couple sentences of what you think we can do to help support or continue, you know, elevating the next generation of nurses, nursing professionals, and colleagues.
I think we're doing it. You know, I just moved up to the Bay Area, and I don't really know very many people who are Latino up here. And so this, even just today, right now, talking with you all, it's been wonderful because I feel accompanied. And I think really we need accompaniment.
Yay, I'm glad that you feel that warmth. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
I think finding time to not just, you know, celebrate ourselves or practice our culture in the stereotypical ways, but also go deeper into our, you know, being in the nursing profession is a healing profession, right? By what, like ancient medicine, like tap into that, like have a day, like invite curanderos to come give limpias in the lobby one day. Stuff like that would be so cool.
Yeah, I like that. You know,
I think for me, I want to invite us all, actually, as Latinos as well, to also remember like the diaspora of people that make up the Latino community. And I'm really glad to see Maria here representing some of the indigenous influences that I know I've come to learn more about over the years, but also our Black Latino family members. I feel like in California in particular, there's a tendency to maybe not as much embrace the full, you know, breadth of our community. And of course, we need to acknowledge that for many of us with light skin privilege, we've been anti-Black, or we've been raised in anti-Black households. And so I think, and anti-Indigenous for that matter. And so I think just trying to remember that we will go much further if we are more inclusive and acknowledging of all of the different, you know, the variety of what makes up our community.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Thank you, Anna. Sergio, oh, no pressure. The last words.
Yeah, well, I would say that, you know, we've all encountered or are immersed in kind of an academic culture, shall we say, having been educated. And I think we all know that when we look at our communities, that all of the research has been done, the blue ribbon panels, the town halls, the expert opinions have been put out there. I don't know, there's so much more to learn about our underrepresentation. I think what we can do is to actually, you know, take action and raise voice and maybe even take some risk, you know, because I don't think there's anything left to uncover about our underrepresentation or the reasons why. You know, this isn't one of those things where we need further study. You know, it's time we act on the recommendations and collectively organize, because I do think there's strength in numbers, to ask for our place and that our contributions be recognized. I don't think there's, I think that's the only thing left to do, if we want to not just be celebrated, but included, listened to, valued, and invested in.
Definitely. Thank you, Sergio. And on that note, just to say one little phrase from one of our attendees, it says, thank you all so much for this. It's wonderful to see representation at UCSF and leadership roles. It's motivational to see what you all are doing out there, and to have you in this room and to share this space. And I echo that. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of this and moderating, and it's a privilege for me and inspiration to see the work that you're doing. And I look forward to crossing paths many more times. And to all our audience out there, I want to thank all of you as well for having joined us tonight. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us, reach out to me if you'd like to connect. I think it's all about community building and just keeping these lines of communication open. So thank you to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and let's always continue to remember and honor our Latinx heritage. So thank you, everybody. God bless you, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Nice
Thank
to
you,
meet
everyone.
Buenas noches.
Take care.
Thank you, Adrian.
Bye-bye.
Gracias, adiós.